you?
That's probably
Hey, how are you?
the best thing to do if we do that. And you got Brian and Jeff, right, on your committee. I think it's,
Yeah, I think it's
Not a problem.
that
Ken?
way, because then you.
Yes.
I'm John Groff.
John, how are
The
you?
mayor said you'd be here tonight.
Yes.
Have a seat, please.
Thank you.
Well, this isn't. I just thought you took your motorcycle and went south forever. No, I'm good.
I bet. I have the meetings that you miss.
Sometimes I like to miss
hello, how are you? Let's see, great. Hi there. Hi, I'm Doug Heffley.
I'm scared of it.
That's great.
Pleasure to meet you. Hope everybody.
Jim is here about stormwater conservation.
How you doing?
Oh, she probably won't be here for the committee.
Is Dick still in Florida?
No, I was thinking he'd be back, but I know he's gonna miss a couple meetings, but maybe he is gonna miss.
They told me, he sent me a text.
Deb said she'd be running late. She told me that. She'll be here for the council meeting. Wasn't sure about the committee meeting,
you as well.
so.
Been a while.
Yes, it has been a while.
They do. You got you and
See you again.
We've talked, but we haven't laid eyes.
Doug and
true.
Deb.
How are things?
Things are all right.
Yeah.
Hi, Keith. How you doing?
I am. I'm his youngest. Yep. You're not gonna hit me, right? 'Cause yeah. My oldest brother's married. I know. Yeah. I'm sure that was part of the Heffley and Sal family. Yeah.
Fresca is the only time.
I saw that name, I said.
We usually have thousands of people outside that door just trying to get in, and we have to hold them back. Tonight's the rare exception.
Evening. How you?
Hanging in there.
Good.
Well, you're quite a draw, John. That's.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
A rock star.
Yeah.
Hey, how are we doing, sir? Well, how are you?
Oh, I thought you did.
Did you have her own?
Oh, I tried to find finance. I knew I
There was a bunch of trees up there.
I got a letter in the mail from that committee. Listen, yep. John, we'll start the community development and zoning committee, and John, just go ahead and start with what we're talking about.
Thanks, Cletus. The mayor will be a few minutes late, and we have some guest speakers tonight that he's invited. So if you gentlemen just don't mind for a few minutes, we have three very short pieces of legislation that we'll get through. And then I know Jim has to leave early, so Jim, you'll be the first speaker. So we'll go to item number 4. The street utility departments have an emergency request for legislation to authorize them to go out to bid for materials and chemicals. And I don't know, that's probably Doug right there. That may wanna, or it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Okay. And that actually is on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
Okay, item number 2, item number 5. The Ohio Department of Transportation has graciously volunteered to,
I thought I already had that one.
I think it is on
Oh.
has graciously volunteered to pay for annual bridge inspections.
We don't need
Each year
two
this
of
costs us
I
between
knew we
$7,000 and $12,000 to hire our own engineer to do it. And they have a state level policy now where they are paying for some municipalities which is great. Probably the reasoning behind this is that a lot of municipalities get behind in the bridge inspections. And by them doing it, even though they're having to bite the bullet, it ensures that all the bridge inspections get done. We've always done ours right on time, but there's a legislative request I have today that would allow us to enter into an agreement with ODOT to have them perform the bridge inspections at no cost to us. It's a very good deal.
Saving how much money?
$7,000 to $12,000 a year. Okay. And if you want to, just take the ordinance off the top. That folder. And finally, the last legislative request is for funding, requesting that $8,700 be appropriated from the general fund to pay for the landscape maintenance this year, and also to allow us to enter into an agreement with Showcase to do the services. We did go out and get some bids. Showcase was the lowest bidder. Now, next year, Bob Geller will probably put that amount into his budget, but we didn't know how much to put in this year because this is the first year we will be doing the entire job. So that's why it's going through this year.
How many bids you get?
We got two. Theirs was $8,700, the other one was $10,000.
Who was the other company? Hanford?
Nope. Sorry about that, Johnson. Hickory Enterprises. He did request others, but no one responded. Same problem we had last year. We got very few responses. So there's that one there. Yep,
That's for landscaping?
landscaping of the median.
I wonder who does Park National Banks, because I just happened to catch them at the, out here at 30th Street, and they were there, and I just chit-chatted with the lady that was there, and she was, I mentioned that we were gonna be looking for the bids on this, and boy, she thought that sounded like wonderful. Just chomping at the bit to do that.
Last year, we put bid specifications together, we published them, and only one person responded. We spent a month preparing those specifications and everything else. So this year, we just said, let's just call some selected people. And do it. So that gets us through those three items. If there are no other questions, what I'd like to do is go back to item number 1. And we have 3 guest speakers tonight. 3 prominent people in our community are here, and with different topics. And what I'd like to do first is introduce Jim Kirchhoff. Jim is the director of Licking County Soil and Water Conservation District. Jim?
Well, appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor and John and Councilmember Republic. I just want to share a little bit about a ballot initiative that Soil and Water has on the ballot and why I think it'd be beneficial for your community here. We've been here for 70 years, come out of the Dust Bowl days, but soil is life, water is life. We've taken very good care of these resources after the Dust Bowl days. We're blessed. Very few people, there's abundance of food. Some people maybe don't have food. In fact, $35 million is spent on food assistance in this county last year, fiscal year 13, state fiscal year. It's not because we don't have food, it's because maybe we don't have it in the right place. But times change and everything. And when we look at global change, especially the drought is happening in California, we look at increasing world population, third world countries want a better diet. We look at the energy cost to get food from wherever here to Ohio. And then we look what we can do in this county, what's being done in this county. We have 7 farm markets, thriving farm markets. There's demand for more local, small-scale producers. I think you're going to hear or somebody about something at the mall, a possible farm market here at the mall. But Soil and Water, what we think we can do is support a lot more local, small farms and community-based gardens. And our ballot initiative is for 0.15 mil. It's a very little. It's like $5.25 for a $100,000 property valuation. But that would bring in roughly $555,000. Our funding, we get to the county commissioners and then we bring in other money from the state with grants, but our funding from the county was reduced by over 50% in 2010. It's not been restored. We had some cash reserve that's been drawn down. At the end of this year, we're going to be very little there, so we're going to downsize. We had 7 full-time employees, we're down to 2. We have part-time people working there without benefits. we're still providing services to 438,000 acres in the county, and we have 330 miles of major streams. Want to keep the water clean. So with this small scale farming initiative for community gardens, we want to be supportive, and we will take roughly $190,000 if we're successful with this initiative, and we'd hire a resource person with knowledge in soils and agronomics, soil testing, things like that, to be able to go out and support these people who want to start small scale farming or community garden initiative. We'd also then want to be able to help these with rental equipment. Small scale farming community gardens, you don't need big tractors, but maybe you need rototillers, things of that nature. And then hoop buildings is a way to extend your growing season, control the environments somewhat. Hopewell, Goodwill store on Hopewell Drive recently installed a hoop building. There's a picture in Saturday's paper there. But those are ways that community can grow more food locally. Community organizations can support their members or give to the food pantries to help out in that aspect. And I think the time's right on this, but if we can grow more locally grown foods, we keep the money here in our county. We can, train people with skills. That's what Goodwill store is doing. They're trying to train people with some skills and grow food there. But we can, there's more demand. Local restaurants, some of them are saying, hey, if we have more locally grown food, we'd only sell more locally grown food. So if we can do that, I think we can be a help to your community and communities throughout the county here. So just quick and short, the other thing, we have reorganized the River Roundup, where we brought that back 3 years ago. This year, September 6th, is going to be the 20th anniversary. We like Newark, our Heath, and all the communities.
Jim, I'm sorry, what was the date on that River Roundup?
September 6th, Saturday, September 6th.
Yeah, thanks.
But it used to be just Newark, and it was 16 years of its demise, but we, along with the city of Newark and litter recycling, the county health, brought it back. We want to expand that, and we made attempts last year. A couple years haven't been the best to go out and do more, but we'd like to make like county-wide river cleanup. So not rivers everywhere in the county, but there are streams, and the litter really starts in people's backyard and gets washed in. So the committee wants to focus on that, so that's another good thing we want to do. And if we don't have the resources, a lot of our leadership for River Roundup and Conservation Learning Series, a lot of things we do, we're going to have to downsize more. So I appreciate if you could share the words with others if you think it's a worthy cause, but what we can do here to have better food choices, provide more local food, more employment, appreciate it. So any questions?
Jim, I had a question for you. And you had mentioned the article that was in, I think, Saturday's Newark Advocate. And I apologize for not being part of that group on Friday. My week went crazy on me last week, and so I wasn't able to participate. Do you want to maybe just mention, you had mentioned the Goodwill, can you mention maybe a couple of other places that you stopped at during that event for the council members?
Well, the Goodwill store, part of their mission is trying to employ their people with needs and stuff, so they put up a hoop house on their own, but we're putting rain barrels there to harvest water from a roof nearby because they don't have water nearby. They would like to expand, but they need some help with that. Then we went to what's called the Flying J Farms up near Appleton, the other side of Johnstown. It's a 250-acre farm, but it's been there 17 years. We provided a lot of conservation assistance over time. They recently put up a lot bigger hoop house with federal dollars, cost share dollars from NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service. They also have some livestock. There's a stream running through there. We put in what we call a stream crossing where the cattle would only cross in this area, and we got geotextile down underneath with rocks so they're not muddying up the stream. We put in fencing along the stream to fence the cattle out of the stream. They have a very large pasture that we helped provided fencing so they can break the pasture up into different paddocks to rotate to get more production. Also then there's water lines that go out to these paddocks because they don't want to come back, we don't want them to come back to the stream. We've done, this person's done solar on his barn and produces probably 3/4 of his energy through solar conservation or energy conservation that way. He sells to several farm markets, and he has a CSA where people come there and get their own food. We'd like to only see more of that in the community, and it doesn't take very much land for a community garden to get started. All you need some people with some passion and then some assistance, and we're thinking we can provide the assistance. The hoop house that this Dick Jensen at the Flying J he was able to get federal dollars. Unfortunately, communities, organizations probably don't have a farming history and don't meet their eligibility to acquire those funds from the Fed, so we could be that source to help with that. So, any other questions, Mayor?
None from me. Thanks.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I'm off to another presentation, so I appreciate it.
Thank you,
John
Jeff.
and Mayor has my phone number and contact, so.
Appreciate you coming
Thank
out.
you.
Jim. Thank you
However
very
you can help
much.
spread the word if you believe that food's important. Maybe not today, but for your kids and your grandkids and future generations. We're blessed. The Bible talks about 7 years of feast and 7 years of famine. Hopefully we'll never have that famine, but we want to be here for our county. So.
I've seen quite a few of these people eat. Food is important.
Food, I think I got a feeling every one of them's a food inspector every day, multiple times a day. So we would like to have plenty of local food for inspection. Great, thank you.
Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. If you want to sit already together.
Sure. You want to have Dan here? Okay.
Okay.
Kent, are you on a tight time schedule, or Dan? How about you?
Not at all.
Okay.
With Kent has traveled further, I'm guessing, so.
Okay. Okay. All right. You know, we've talked at various times about the numerous legislative efforts going on in Columbus. It seems to reduce funding for local governments. And about a month or so ago, I think you all had asked me to kind of give you an update on where things stood. Now, I gotta tell you, there's a number of different bills that are out there, and it's hard for me to keep track of it all. So I thought I would ask a gentleman whose job it is to keep track of it all to come and give you an update. This is Kent Scarrett. He's with the Ohio Municipal League, and one of the things that he does is help to communicate with our state lawmakers and with local government entities on the legislative needs of local governments, and also provide input and feedback to them on legislative efforts that they seek to try to implement. So with that, Kent, if you would.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor.
you. I appreciate you being here.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you. Mayor said I have an hour of your time. So, I hope everybody's
Sorry, Dan.
That's all right. It's just thinking, what a coincidence.
But the mayor asked me to come in and speak for a few minutes, about 15 or 20 minutes. I told the mayor last Wednesday I spoke to the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers about just HB 5. There's over 100 people in the meeting, and I spoke for 2.5 hours, and I still didn't talk about everything that I thought needed to be said about this bill and what's going on in the different background. But I'll cut to the chase with this shorter version. What I've distributed to you is a packet of information that is pretty much everything, covers all the bases, everything you want to know about the municipal income tax, this issue, the history of the tax, and it really dissects the bill and what is included in the bill. I think one of the most important documents is the first page, and it shows that the first page spells out the areas of the bill that we're for and the areas of the bill that we're against. And you can see there's a long list of issues in the bill right now that we are for conceptually. We are for more uniformity. We are for greater standardization and more predictability for businesses and taxpayers. It's going to help our members administratively to administer the tax in a proper manner. And of course, it's going to be a benefit to taxpayers both on the business and individual side. But we're for more uniformity, but there's a lot of poison pills in this bill. There are issues that I'll talk about briefly and they're included in the second part list of the areas that we need. It's a front and back piece. So the areas that need more work. And these 7 areas are the areas that represent the greatest revenue hits to our municipal budgets. I don't need to tell probably anybody in this room about the challenges that your municipal budgets are under, either economically, just because of the economic development landscape we've been going through for the last 10 years, or the changes in state policy. But this is another hit at our revenues. Each city is different. Each city has different conditions and circumstances in their municipality, and how this bill affects them are differently. But the biggest issue in the bill that we have the greatest amount of opposition to, that we've identified as the greatest threat to our revenues, And the 175 municipalities that have a 0 net operating loss carry forward right now is the 5-year unfunded mandate, mandating all 529 municipalities that have an income tax now to carry a 5-year NOL. I forget what Heath is at. Do you have
0?
Okay, so you're in that 175. Not only is this a 5-year mandate to carry a 5-year carry forward for businesses, it is also a mandate to carry a 5-year carry forward for individuals. And it's a double NOL. There's only 3 communities that I know of right now in Ohio that allows the individual to also take a 5-year NOL carry forward. And it's Cincinnati, it's Mason, and it's Indian Hill. In those communities, Cincinnati does things differently. Mason and Indian Hill are very wealthy communities, and they can afford the luxury of doing that. Other municipalities are in the same boat as you're in, and they're struggling to address this issue when looking at what the revenue impacts would be. So it's not only the business, it's the entity. We have suggested, and we've come back without going into the long depth history, and if you'd like me to talk about the history of how we got to this bill, but we have suggested that the General Assembly employ a 4-level tier system, that a municipality would be able to choose what is the proper policy for their carry forward treatment, and if it's 0, it's 0. They would be locked in. They would have 4 options: 0, 1, 3, or 5 years. The municipality would make that choice, what their carry forward procedure would be, and then they'd be locked in. We have 300 municipalities in Ohio that don't have an income tax now. If they were to institute a new tax after HB 5 with our recommended language, they would have to take a 5-year NOL. That's not going to obviously have any revenue issues because they would be employing a new tax. So we have said to offer greater standardization, predictability, to address the greatest revenue concerns we have in the treatment in HB 5 with the NOL. The tiered system is something that we're actively suggesting that the Senate take a look at and consider. I can tell you the Senate is more receptive to that than the House. The Senate is more receptive pretty much to everything we're saying than the House. And of course the bill's in the Senate now, and I'll briefly talk about where the bill is. That is a big issue for Heath. Another big issue for Heath, is throwback and is the occasional entrant. The throwback provision is, without getting wonky, is part of the 3-factor formula for sales, for allocating sales. And the throwback provision is applied on sales that come from warehouse or distribution centers, or third-party sales through internet sales. The throwback provision is applied to all those sales that originate from those type of sales, off-site location sales. The throwback provision is uniformly applied right now. HB 5 just eliminates the throwback provision. And that is a significant, I'll just tell you, Columbus has hundreds of warehouse distribution and third-party off-site sale companies. They did a sampling of 15 businesses in their community that the throwback provision is applied to their sales. And from that universe of 100 to 15, it's a $500,000 loss annually. And all the first string suburbs, you're looking at 25-35% of their revenue from the tax is derived from that throwback. So this is, when we're talking about HB 5 being a uniformity bill and getting to uniformity, it's not. It started out as that, and that was part of the conversation that we all engaged in, and we've engaged in with prior bills to this. There's about 7 bills that the General Assembly has passed since 2000 that has achieved uniformity in municipal income tax. This is the first time that we've had our revenues threatened in such a way with some of these treatments, and it's unfortunate. But the throwback provision, the NOL, the occasional entrant, and this is a lot to throw at you. There are white papers in here that explain all of these, our top 4 issues, so it tells you what the current treatment is, what the proposed treatment is, the bill, and what the concerns are of municipalities and why we object to them. So I'm kind of going at this fast, but I just want to give you a taste of what we're dealing with. Another big issue that will affect Heath is the occasional entrant. And this is kind of, it's all wonky, but the occasional entrant is when people are in your community and the business that they're working from is not located in your community. So they're in your community, they're in the course of their day using your services. And there's an obligation to pay for those services that they're using at some point. right now, Ohio has a 12-day occasional entrant grace period where a worker is in your community for 12 days and they are not contributing, they are not withholding paying the tax until the 13th day is reached. And uniformly, once that 13th day of a worker being in your community using the services, the tax is collected back to the first day. It's retroactively collected, and then all the taxes collected or the withholding begins and forward, as much time as that person's in your community going forward. This bill expands the 12-day current uniform 12-day window to 20 days. So it adds 8 days, extending that time, there's no withholding. And it also prevents, once that 21st day has been reached, it prevents municipalities to going back to the first day and collecting that tax that is due. The problem, and the folks that did this bill said, well, the tax is being withheld where the business is located. So someone's paying the tax. Now, of course, if the business is located in a township, there's no withholding going on because there's no tax where that business is located because it's in a township, unincorporated area, no municipal income tax. But the problem is, legally, that taxpayer could get a refund if the business, if they're being withheld where they were not performing the work. So the argument is their business is located in Heath, they're in Newark using their services. The Heath is withholding the taxes for those 12 days, but that taxpayer can come back and say, I want a refund because I was not working in Heath. I can prove I was working in Newark and you cannot withhold my taxes, and a refund is due. So that's where you get.
So
now,
nobody gets it.
Nobody gets it. It's 20 free days. It is 20 free days. That is bad tax policy. It's unfair because you're going to be working next to people. You're going to have W-2 wage earners working next to people who are paying the tax, who are paying for the services that they're using. So this completely skews it to giving 20 free days in a community that services are being provided, and that's going to be a big issue for municipalities right now. So the throwback, the occasional entrant, and the NOL are the top issues. The offset is another significant issue that is really wonky, but the offset is it allows for double deductions. It allows for a loss to be taken in one community where a business is located, and then to also be taken if the individual does not reside in that community where the business was, to take a loss on the residential and the business level. That's a double deduction, and that's obviously not good tax policy. The consolidated returns, alternative apportionment. Yes, ma'am.
Before you get too far off on the
Yeah, I was almost done. So.
Yeah. The occasional entrant, is that 20 consecutive days or is it cumulative? Say I work 1 week a month in Heath.
It is not consecutive.
Okay.
It is not consecutive. And the problem with the original, or what the problem is right now with the law, is a day is not defined. So some businesses were saying, and we're hearing this anecdotally, but some businesses were saying, I'm just driving through a community, they see my truck and they tag that as 1 day in my community, and if I see you 11 more times, no matter how much time you're in my community, we're going to start demanding withholding.
What community does that?
You know, a lot of people on staff and employees.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my goodness.
It was up north, northeast.
Okay.
It seems to be where a lot of the tax problems are coming from.
John, we need to expand your roles and responsibilities.
But what we did with this bill, what we suggested in HB5 and what we agree with is part of the first section. We agree with the expanded 12 to 20 as long as we can go back to the first day. But we came up with the definition of a day as the preponderance of the day. So it has to be the majority, basically, of time you're in that community during your workday. That goes towards a day. Not just driving through, not just stopping, getting gas. It has to be you're in that community using the services for the preponderance of the day, and it's not consecutive. It's through the calendar year. But it really adds up quickly, especially on projects and that sort of thing. There's also a problem with construction projects that isn't tied up in this bill. That was one of our number one priorities because that's big ticket occasional entrance, and it's still very loose in this bill on if they're going to be responsible back to the first day. So that's a significant area of revenue hemorrhage that we're concerned about. The other issues with the consolidated returns, just quickly, and alternative apportionment, is really a case that there's uniformity right now, and these changes will be, for lack of a better term, the tail wagging the dog. It'll give a taxpayer the ability to usurp the authority of the tax administrator and determine what the proper filing procedures are. And obviously, the taxpayer would choose to not follow the advice of the tax administrator on how they should file to produce a better scenario of a loss, where they wouldn't have any exposure to municipal income tax. But the net operating loss carry forward, along with the changes in the offsets, sets up a real situation, and this benefits only certain taxpayers. This does not benefit W-2 wage earners. It benefits those that have partnerships, different sources of revenue, or just different sources of income that they're experiencing these breaks in the municipal income tax. And the bill sets up with the NOL for the individual and the changes in offset to allow for double deductions and the aggregate netting of identifying the revenue that a taxpayer is receiving. Really sets up a situation where there would be no municipal income tax obligation for certain taxpayers. And this is all just coming from our tax administrators who we work with. As part of the Municipal League, we have the Municipal Income Tax, the Ohio Municipal Income Tax Administrators Committee, and they study all of these things. We have a coalition that has been part of a working group for 3 years that has ramped up to what we have right now in HB 5. There were 28 interested party hearings or meetings last year in the House. There were 14 hearings in the House Ways and Means Committee before they did pass the bill out November 13th by a vote of 56 to 41. There were 4 Republicans who crossed lines and voted against the bill, and there was 1 Democrat who crossed party lines and voted for the bill. So it was a bipartisan opposed and supported bill, but the bill's in the Senate Finance Committee. There have not been hearings yet. This is going to be a lame duck bill. This is they're absolutely running out of legislative time right now. This General Assembly, the 130th General Assembly ends in December. The 131st, the new General Assembly starts in January. Any bill that is not passed by the end of this year has to be reintroduced next year. And I'll tell you what, they are not going to reintroduce HB 5. They're going to do something with this bill, this General Assembly, because there's just been so much work, so much fever. There's this coalition of 33 of the most powerful special interests of the State House that are part of the Ohio Municipal Income Tax Reform Coalition, spearheaded by the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, NFIB, and the Ohio Society of CPAs. So they have invested a lot of time and a lot of resources into getting the bill this far. I'll tell you that the General Assembly, next week, they go on spring break for 2 weeks. They're going to be back in May for 2 weeks, and then they're going to recess for the whole summer until they come back after the election. And the post-election session, which is about a 6 weeks period, is called lame duck, and that's when all accountability goes out the window, pretty much. When it's Katie bar the door. There's things flying in every direction in every committee because they're trying to rush things through, and they're trying to put this. They're going to put this bill off because they know what energy this issue has generated, and they don't want to send their people out to campaign and try and get reelected with having this firestorm of them trying to continue to compromise the ability of municipal income or to municipalities to raise revenue on the local level. So. I don't even, I've got another half hour to talk about Senate Bill 282, which is a bill that was introduced about 3 weeks ago that would restrict the municipal income tax to the resident only. That's a big problem for us. That's a big problem for everybody that has a business in your community.
Who sponsored that bill?
Chris Jordan, Senator Chris Jordan from Delaware. I'll tell you, Senator Tim Schaefer co-sponsored that bill. You're looking at 60, 70, 80% of revenue from municipalities with any size would be lost because people coming in their communities, working in the businesses that our municipalities host would not have to pay or would not be paying the municipal income tax. That's a big problem. 282 is not as great of a threat as the ballot issue that they're talking about, doing the same issue as a statewide ballot coming up. They've already done polling last summer on this. And that would be a very difficult issue for us to fight.
What would they put on the ballot?
Restricting municipal income tax to resident only. So there's legislation introduced, and there's also a well-financed group that is making inroads to have it on the ballot. We don't know when. We hope it doesn't happen, obviously, but that would be a tremendous problem because you get to it's the issue of taxation without representation. It's an easy sell for the public. You know, when you just put it out there, hey, do you think municipalities should only tax their residents? Boom, 80% are going to say, heck yeah, absolutely. And then you have to have about $300 million to the other side to say, no, this is why, and this is what is going to be the outcome if you restrict municipalities to only tax their residents. No municipality would want a business in their community because they'd be, you know, they'd be parasites. They would be using services that they're not paying for. And that would, we've talked to the governor about it. The governor's talked to us about it. The Senate president talked to us about it, that we should be concerned about it. They're concerned about it. But, you know, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens on that. But right now, the HB5 is a greater threat because it's passed the House, it's in the Senate, and there are real challenges in it for municipal budgets. So we want to thank the mayor, obviously, and you all for being engaged on this issue and talking with, as well as you could, with Jay Hottinger, you know, obviously, who supported the bill in the House.
It's like talking to that wall over there.
He's
Schaefer support 5 too?
well, you know, he hasn't voted on it yet. But he co-sponsored a bill that will gut municipal budgets, and Senate Bill 282.
Yeah, that's the 282.
But
we had a conversation with Tim, Senator Schaefer, down in Hebron. Keith and I were there. Mayor Hall, the Newark tax commissioner was there. Was Kim there too? In Hebron?
Yes.
Yeah. Steve Stillwell from Granville was there. Of course, Mayor Mason and their tax commissioner was there as well. We expressed to Tim what our concerns were with HB5. I think he understood our side, but let me just put it bluntly. When the rubber meets the road and you're a state politician, are you able to look into the eyes of the people who fund your campaigns primarily and say, I can't be with you on this one? We saw what happened in the House of Representatives when that dynamic was, you know, put before them. I don't think it's a far stretch to imagine that same dynamic put before members of the Senate, they could do the same thing that was done in the House. Am I speaking out of school, Kent, or am I being fairly accurate?
You know, I'll say that.
I know I put you in a tough spot.
Let me try and be fair. The Senate is way different than the House. House districts are much smaller. Some House districts don't even have municipalities in them. Some of them might be all townships. Senate districts have, obviously, they're larger. They have more municipalities in them. Senators are hearing more from their municipal constituents, I think, than House members did. The Senate is a more deliberative body. And I'll tell you, I met with Schaefer. I've known Schaefer for years and years. I was legislative aide for Steve Williams in the Senate when he was our senator, and then I was legislative aide for Nancy Childs Dix when she was our senator. And Tim was always around trying to get in the door. And I've known Tim forever. But, you know, I forget what I was going to say about Tim. But Tim is the chairman of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. We thought that the bill was going to go to that committee because that's where it came out of the House, but it didn't. It went to Finance. I'll just tell you what I was going to say. I met with Schaefer a couple months ago on 5 specifically. They are upset that the House delivered what he called a street fight.
Yeah. That
the bill is a street fight. That's Representative Grossman, who was a former mayor of the city of Grove City, is the chief sponsor of the bill. The process, kind of like Senate Bill 5, the process got kind of ramped up and taken away, and it got ahead of itself, and they delivered a bad bill to the Senate, and the Senate's not happy about it. So there are members that are very concerned about what they're hearing from their municipalities, where in the House districts, either they didn't care or they didn't have that much, you know, of a contribution, you know, trying to get in. But the House spent 2 years on HB5. It was 601 before it was 5. They were done with the bill. And they were just like, let the Senate deal with it. And now the Senate's not happy to deal with it. We have a bill drafted, it's called the low-hanging fruit bill. It's all the areas that we agree with in HB 5, all the areas we have common ground, that we're suggesting and lobbying very hard that the members of the Senate pass that, and then we'll continue to work on those areas that are not included, like the NOL, and study those in the next General Assembly. So we've given them an outlet piece of legislation to pass that'll advance uniformity, but there is a significant factor that these people bring to the party, and they are in campaign season, and these groups are important to them to get reelected to come back in January, and that's sort of the dynamic we're up against. Yeah.
Question for you. They keep talking about uniformity. Do all other states have uniformity, or are they different? That's like Ohio. I mean,
Ohio is completely unique. We have Ohio, by the Ohio Constitution, allows, through home rule, allows municipalities to institute their own municipal income tax. Home rule police power, the state of Ohio actually granted municipalities the ability to do that, but we have it under police power, the home rule provision. There's no other state that has the ability of each municipality to institute their own income tax. Each state has, especially for larger municipalities in them, have user fees, have service fees, have something that they call that is just like the income tax. But we are an outlier. I mean, we have 592 small little income taxes all over the state, and there are issues that are not uniform. I mean, there are, like, just one big one is penalty and interest. There are large differences from some areas of the state versus other areas of the state on what the levels of penalty and interest. And this would streamline or make them uniform. But Ohio is unique. But there's no way the legislature is going to get rid of the municipal income tax, because the states will scream, or the counties will scream bloody murder if they try and go to a sales tax, which some municipalities do in lieu of an income tax. Municipalities in other states have a sales tax. Counties will not let that happen. And the property tax, there's already enough sharing and piecemealing of that. They're not going to let municipalities to get more of that. So, and the state's not going to give more funding. They're not going to
State won't plow our streets.
Well, but the state is a great partner in areas. I get in trouble when I bash the state over and over because all the changes, the $400 million in local government fund cut, the $300 million lost in the estate tax, the $300 million lost in the tangible personal property and dealers intangible tax gone. Some people are saying it's 10%. We're saying it's about 4% reduction in this budget in the local government fund because of the income tax cuts. Because when you reduce that side, the revenue that the state gets, that pie is going to get smaller. That size of the pie is going to get smaller than we get. And there's a 4%. They say, no, we didn't cut it, but they did, because each income tax cut is a reduction of the revenue that comes in that goes back out through the local government fund. So, it is what it is. And that money's never going to come back. The local government fund will not be replenished as long as Governor Kasich is in the helm. They're never going to get rid of it. Because they like to use that as leverage. As you're seeing today, they're trying to leverage Cuyahoga County losing $1.7 million of their local government fund over absentee ballot procedures. So they like to hold the remaining money over the heads of our local government, saying, we're going to take it if you don't do what we tell you to do. But, we've got other issues with the severance tax, the reductions there that are going to affect the local government fund, but nothing like what we're seeing in this bill. This is the biggest bill we've ever had with the municipal league because it affects 592 of our members. We've always been interested parties from other bills. And just so you know that what the last 5 pages of this document is the history of uniformity in municipal income tax. It's always being characterized as there's no uniformity at all, that Ohio is the wild, wild west of local income tax collection, and that's just not true. We have Ohio Revised Code Chapter 718, which is 35 pages of uniformity right now. And this just adds to more uniformity, but this is the most imbalanced attempt at uniformity right now. So we're hopeful, but Schaefer, Tim's going over to the House. So he's going to be back in the General Assembly next year, but he hasn't
Term
been.
limit stuff?
Yeah.
These guys flip-flop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we invited Schaefer here yet?
No. Not here, not to a council meeting, not to a committee meeting.
Good idea.
Keith, what do you know?
He's been here at this table and sat down,
Yeah.
spent a lot of time
Not,
with
not,
it.
With
not
this
council.
bill?
Not, well, yeah,
Yeah.
and it was this bill and it's more in its infancy. That's been more than a year ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, we were all pretty pleased with what he had to say at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and then he co-sponsored Senate Bill 282.
Rubber's hitting the road with this baby. I'd like to get him back in here.
I mean,
That'd be a
certainly
great
extend an
idea.
invitation to have him come to maybe a finance committee meeting, and we can send out the invitation.
Sure.
Jim, you want to co-sign that invitation with me? And Keith, we'll just, like I said, maybe finance committee, since it's the first and the third months or what Mondays, that gives him some more options as far as attending.
We'll have a special. Conflicts with the schedule.
We can let him-
I'd like-
At
We
his
can let him know that
convenience.
as well.
At his convenience,
Yeah.
to where, don't pin him down for a date, just say at his convenience.
He's gonna have a lot of time coming up because they're gonna be on
Right.
recess.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
I'd like to get eyeball to eyeball with that guy.
But he's very influential in that caucus, and lame duck is, I mean, this is where people get paid back, for support, and the media has been great about concentrating on this bill, but when we get into lame duck, so much is going to be happening. I mean, we're talking about right to life bills that could pop up, we're not talking about right to work bills that could pop up in lame duck. So on top of this big issue, there's still other things that are going to be getting a lot of attention and a lot of heat, and this could just go right under the radar. And then we're looking at trying to revise, going back, trying to get help, and that's not a good
He's
spot.
not running for the House, and Huntinger's not running for the Senate.
Yes.
Yeah, they're flipping. And Jay's obviously supported the bill, but
Yeah.
but I thank you. If you have any
Kent,
questions,
thanks for
or
boiling that down into the short period of time that you did.
I still ran over. I'm sorry.
And I would encourage each of you, I mean, to delve into this. Take a look at this information, and so there isn't anything here on 282, but I'm sure they probably have. What do they have? What's called a legislative review, something like it's a breakdown of what each bill is and what that's out there, right?
Well, it's on our website, and then on the different Ohio Legislative Service Commission websites. Heck, you just type in Ohio Senate Bill 282 and you'll get it. But it's not in 30
You
channels.
have an extra one of these, Brian, just got here.
I do. Yes, I have several. Yes, sir. Did you have a question?
Who was that Democrat that crossed over and voted for House Bill 5?
His name was Stephen Slesnick. He is from Canton, Stark County. His family has a lot of businesses in the Canton area. Slesnick Recycling, and a couple others. And he voted for the bill. I'd just say that Temkin is in Canton, Temkin Corporation, and they have a strong influence on some of these changes in the bill. But he did. He was on House Ways and Means Committee. He voted for it there, and then he voted for it on the floor. So it was unfortunate. The four Republicans that voted for the bill or voted against the bill was Representative Blessing Jr. down in Cincinnati, and then McGregor, Representative Baker, and Representative Clark, all in the Dayton area. So there was 4 Republicans that said no, it needs more time, and I guess we think did the right thing.
Thank you. Any other questions or anything for Kent? Appreciate it, Kent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Pretty complex issue.
There's some
Like
extras
that,
here
so.
if anybody. And feel free to give me a call if anybody has any questions or needs additional analysis. There's more analysis in here, and we've got all kinds of stuff on top of that. So, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would certainly be fine to send an invitation to Senator Schaefer and see if he takes us up on it.
Just off the top, that strikes me that we'd lose 60-70% of our revenue. Wouldn't
On
it?
282?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we got no income tax, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a bedroom community. Well, no, we're not a bedroom community. We have more people in here during the day than we do at night. So yeah.
How much in hard dollars would you expect to lose?
$3 million.
We'd lose
Pass
three,
this bill.
3.5 million.
two on that Senate bill.
282. Yeah, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
because I mean I haven't
Well,
looked
yeah,
at the bill
that's right.
hard, but I
Yeah.
would assume what that means is we don't get any payroll income tax.
No.
We only get income tax from
On the
residents
people
of the
who
city.
live here.
So yeah. I mean, we could just close our doors,
$3 million. Budget is $7 million.
or the people of Heath
Give
would be.
everybody a shovel and a
7
broom, say here it
$7 million
is, you
budget,
take
we're
care
gonna
of
lose
it.
3 of it?
Well, I mean, this is just off the top without studying, without knowledge of what's.
Yeah, the thing is if we have more people working in the city and generating more income in the city during the day than we have residents in the
Good.
evening,
Russ
then
is
we
not here.
lose. And I think what Keith is speculating is not, we would probably lose big.
Oh, yeah. But I'm
They
just
gotta
saying, everyone
find
that
that.
works outside, you get their full, you wouldn't give them credit for working somewhere else. So everyone that works in Columbus or Newark or whatever, we get their full amount as
Yeah.
opposed to just a quarter percent.
Yeah.
You're suggesting 3 of the $7 million we'd get.
Well, this is a destination,
budget.
this is a destination city for work. There's gotta be more people that come to work here than live here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lot by
I'll say
lot.
so, Yeah.
Sure. No question.
Yeah. Phew, yeah, that's scary to
scary,
wrap your
man.
brain around that concept.
If
Um,
$3 million can't get an invite to this, for this guy front and center,
You would need to say something to somebody, wouldn't you? Yeah. That's where we're getting. Frankly, that's where we're getting with a lot of these bills.
change our sign
ordinance
so we can keep them out all year.
I want to now give the floor to Dan Evers. Dan Evers is Economic Development Director for the county with Grow Licking County, which you all know is the Community Improvement Corporation, the CIC, that is basically the front door for economic development in Licking County. Dan has briefed us at least on a couple of different occasions on the efforts of Grow Licking County. I wanted him to be here today to make sure we answered any questions or covered any bases regarding Ordinance 19/2014. You all recall when Grow Licking County was formed, the city of Heath committed for 3 years to help fund Grow Licking County to the tune of $10,000 per year. David has expressed the opinion that it would be better for the city to have a formal economic development agreement in place for Grow Licking County in exchange for the funding support. So you will see in your packet after the Ordinance 19, there is a copy of the proposed economic development agreement. This agreement has gone through David and Mary Albright, who is who served as the attorney for Grow Licking County in the review of this. Also, as part of this agreement, you'll see that the annual I'm looking for where it's at. Yeah, it's on what would be the second page of the agreement under item 2, compensation. That the amount would go to $12,000 per year from $10,000. I believe that that is justified given the efforts that Grow Licking County has done already for the city, some of the results that we've seen from those efforts, and the idea that a greater funding of this organization will help to improve its ability to reach out and tell the story of Licking County and the city of Heath as being a place where we welcome business development and where we do what we can to ensure their success. So, Dan, if I thought maybe if you would, I know you've reviewed the agreement as well. Talk a little bit about your role, what you do from an economic development standpoint for the county, and in particular what you've done for the city of Heath, and some of those tangible results that we've seen.
Happy to do it. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh,
Permission for me to pass it around.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for giving me a few minutes. The mayor said I could take an hour. John said I could take 5 minutes. So we'll finish somewhere in between there. Maybe one short thing here.
That's okay. That's all right. Okay.
Thanks for giving me the time, and thank you for your collaboration and your investment previously. John didn't.
Oh, I'll share mine with him.
What Keith's got next?
Oh, okay.
What you have in the packet is just a little bit of an overview of some of our information. Some of it is the type of collateral material, a couple of new pieces that we use as part of our outreach and our marketing effort, and also a little piece in there that's speaks to, I think, both what we've been able to achieve together, as well as what comes as a result of that. And that's the first piece on the right-hand side, which is an article on the Experion project. I don't think that I need to go over the Experion project with any of you all. I know you're intimately familiar with it, and we're exceptional partners in helping to make it happen, from council and the mayor through the staff. Everyone was exceptional and really helped make a difference. Part of what we are able to do in partnership with other folks in the region, in the county, and beyond, is to get news like this out. Area Development is one of the premier site selection magazines, really not just in the nation, but it's an international publication. So articles like this, highlighting Heath, Ohio, highlighting Licking County, are in the hands of and on the desktops of site selection professionals, real estate professionals, national and international developers, telling our story for us. And that's part of our mission. Our mission, very simply, as the mayor said, is to be the front door for the community, both in terms of marketing the community, broadly and specifically, coordinating site searches, coordinating inquiries, coordinating resources once we get a prospect into our community, and make sure that all of the questions that they may have are answered quickly, answered consistently, and that we as a community stay on message, and that we're as responsive as we possibly can be to those clients, to those inquiries. We do it through outbound marketing, electronic and print. We do it through collaboration with the state of Ohio and Columbus 2020 as our regional partners to identify leads. They serve as a resource for us in generating leads, which we then distribute throughout the community to units of government and to the private sector development, real estate community. We do it through retention expansion calls. Eddie Hunt is part of our R&E team. The mayor participates in R&E calls. And through those, we do create and have created opportunities both to keep folks here happy and to capitalize on expansion opportunities. Those are, at a broad level, those are the things that we do. We market, we respond, we coordinate, we collaborate, try to be a little creative. I think the Experian deal is, I'm not just saying that because I'm here in Heath. I recently had my annual review, and one of the questions I was asked is, what are you most proud of? So the Experian project, not because of the project itself, but because of the way we brought folks together. And because we did things quite literally that have never been done in the state. And I'm not using the royal we, the team did that. And I think big part of the beauty of our organization is that we're able to be not just a central point of focus and contact for interested parties in our community, parties that are interested in our community, but we're able to be that very same thing for all of the partners and assets and resources of our community. We can coordinate those efforts, and we can give people the opportunity to be creative and the opportunity to be collaborative and make sure that they get in front of the people that they can assist. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, or expound upon anything, or if I've fallen short of what you were hoping.
No?
If I haven't touched on something, I'm more than happy to do it. Y'all have been with me before, you know I can talk.
You know, I would maybe just want to build on that, to say that I hope, I believe that you know, we'll have first reading on this ordinance tonight. We'll have second reading, and I would hope a vote in approval of entering into this agreement 2 weeks from now. I think that like I said, we had committed for 3 years at 10,000. This would be the third year, but I believe that the efforts of this organization, the results that we've seen, the tangible results that we've seen in Experian coming here, some of the positive results for Heath that are a little bit more under the radar, and what I believe will be positive results for the city to come. I think it justifies an increase to $12,000. And my hope is, when you look at, where's it at? It's in here, in the annual report. When you look at the second page with the list of the various entities that are investors in this organization, frankly, I hope that they will follow our lead and recognize that and recognize the positive impact that Grow-Licking County has had toward trying to retain and create good jobs in this county. And I hope that they will make an effort to similarly increase their funding levels for the organization as well. As you all probably know, we've talked about this before, I serve on the board of Grow-Licking County as its secretary. When I believe, I'm almost positive, that this agreement will be on that board's agenda on the
21st.
21st, yeah, thank you, which is also when council would have second reading on this ordinance. I want to assure you that when this topic comes up on the agenda of that board meeting, I will recuse myself and leave the room. Somebody else will have to take notes on the proceedings as it relates to discussing this agreement.
We know who that'll be.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I have, at this time, I have no reason to believe that there will be any opposition on Grow-Licking County's board to Grow-Licking County entering into this agreement. But I will have absolutely nothing to do with the discussion of that during that board meeting. I just want to make sure that you all are assured of that. And then, as I said, later that evening it would come up for a vote among you all. I think on just an individual level, we are not, we do not have somebody on our payroll as a city, as an economic development person. I believe, who is it from Newark? Stuart Moynihan?
Moynihan.
Yeah.
Couldn't come up with his last name.
And then he is probably under Mark Mauder's
Correct.
umbrella, right?
Correct.
Okay. We don't have that in the city of Heath. I try to do, what I can as mayor, but I don't have all of the tools and resources available to do some of the things that are outlined in this agreement that you'll, hopefully have the city enter into. So, Dan would be the primary person that would fulfill those roles. He does an excellent job fulfilling those roles for the county at large, has done so quite a bit already for the city of Heath in his position as Economic Development Director for Grow-Licking County. I have every confidence that what you see outlined in the agreement as the services to be provided by Grow-Licking County will be done so in an exceptional manner. So that's my 2 cents as far as the agreement. Yes, Tim?
If we already got an agreement for 10, have we already?
We do not.
We already paid 10?
Not for this year.
We haven't paid anything for this year.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure is whether
Yeah.
we've already paid 10 and you're.
2 years ago we did 10. Last year we did 10.
Okay.
The city has received the invoice. I've held off on paying that, knowing that we were working on this agreement. So no, for 2014,
Did we already have 10 in the budget?
No,
this?
we had 12 in the budget.
You have 12 in the budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
How does that 12 or 10 stack up with some of these other investors, dollar-wise?
Dan, you want to speak to that? Because I can't recall some of the figures right off the top. As far as the municipalities are concerned,
As far as municipalities are concerned, 10 is consistent with what several other communities are paying right now. There are some who are paying less than 10, but
Newark, Tascala, Granville,
Newark,
Hebron, Newark, Johnstown, they're all at 10, right?
yes, Tascala, I believe, is also at 10.
Okay.
Granville is not,
Okay.
but they came late.
Yeah.
They were not an initial investor.
Yeah.
they are a willing participant.
I'm sorry?
They are a willing participant.
They are a willing participant, they are a financial participant, just not at 10,000. At this point. The county obviously is in for.
Etna Township has chosen not to help fund Grow-Licking County to date, for reasons I won't get into. A number of the private entities, I'm looking at the list of some of these, a number of these are above that, I think.
Yes, sir, they are.
Yeah.
Some of them considerably.
Yeah.
Mayor, that comes out of the general fund, right?
Correct.
Dan, last time you were here, I think the question was something, percentage of inquiries that you get. Heath oriented.
How many responses do
It
we?
was something either north or south of 50% last time, if I recall. Is that still consistent?
It is consistent. We, in one of the charts that you have, tracks our leads and responses. Actually, not in the annual report, but in the two-pager that was on your left-hand side. So our activity report for February. There you go. That one.
This one?
Yeah, second page has our leads and responses. If you look just this calendar year, December to current, there have been, I believe, 67 leads. We've responded to we've responded to 50. The reasons that we did not respond to the other 17 had to do with project parameters that we just didn't meet.
Not applicable.
Right, yeah, 30-foot ceiling height, for example, or need, 700 acres next to a water source. So we responded to 50 of what I believe is 67. That might be a little high. Of those 50, approximately 30 included heath properties or land. So roughly 60%, which is pretty close. I looked at the report from last year, and I think we'd responded to 47 last year, and 27 of them included heath. But the percentages are very similar. Actually, it's a little higher this year.
So we're growing in percentage of overall.
Yes, yes. And one thing that guys like me talk about, and people just say yeah, actually helps a lot. But on this specific issue, we all talk about the multiplier effect of economic development. And two of our projects that we've been successful in landing, and the figures are in there. It's when we talk about our project successes and the $180 million in committed investment, 1,000 new jobs, 700 jobs retained. Those are only projects that we touched. And there are other projects that have taken place in the county in the last 2 years, and that's over a 2-year time period. 2 years this week, as a matter of fact. I should have taken bets. So those are not inflated numbers. And we're not taking credit for everybody that pulled the building permit. But two of our most recent projects in particular, and this is true for at least one of the others as well, Experian and Goodyear, the companies subsequently contacted us and said, here's a list of things for which we're going to contract. Can you give us contact people? Can you give us a list of businesses we'd like to try to fill those contracts or those relationships with Licking County vendors? And so we've heard back from several companies, including at least one in Heath, that has said, hey, you know what, I got a meeting coming up with these guys. It would be a nice piece of business for us. So, I'm almost as proud of that as I am of landing the deals, actually. The projects don't just end when the steel starts coming up out of the ground, that we're creating ongoing opportunities for existing companies as well.
I can tell you too that Dan is very accessible to myself, to John. Whenever we have any questions or anything, I had forgotten that he had sent me an email saying he was going to be on vacation, and he took my phone call while he was sitting in the airport trying to get home from vacation. So he's he is very accessible with any questions or to bounce ideas off of, and things like that. And I would mention also, you may have seen excuse me, you may have seen the article in the Friday edition of The Advocate. I thought Joe Williams did a pretty good job of summarizing the DC fly-in trip for the Port Authority, and then the conference call with the Vice President the next day. When we went to the German embassy and talked to their economy and commerce section personnel, we're building relationships there that you never know when they might bear fruit. One of the important people sitting at the table was Dan, telling the story of not just Licking County, but Grow Licking County's role in helping to bring Experion to the city of Heath. I intend to continue to stay in contact with those individuals to help, again, cultivate that relationship which we began. But you know, Dan was an important person sitting at the table with them, helping to tell our story and to make sure that the city of Heath and that Licking County as a whole is on their radar. And I think we are. I think they were pretty impressed with the story that we had to tell and what we did to help this German company decide to locate here. And you know, who knows? There may come a time when another German company contacts them and says, you know, hey, we're looking to make an investment in the United States. And you got any thoughts or ideas? They may very well think of us. You know, and I think, you know, the idea of I had shared this with Dan. I think the idea of Grow Licking County sponsoring a similar type of day visit to DC, where we just line up meetings with foreign embassies that all have these economic and, you know, they have these liaisons at their embassies for businesses that do business in the United States. That might be a great trip to take, and I would be, you know, happy to participate in something like that. So we've got a good thing, a good partnership with Grow Licking County in place. This agreement would formalize that and ensure that it continues to succeed. Do you guys have any other questions or anything for Dan? Okay, thanks.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead, do it. I got nothing on the back.
You know what? I was going to say something about I'm glad I counterbalanced that with my OU shirt, but I thought I'd let that go.
Well, and you know, and really, here's the difference between the universities in a nutshell. You got a formal tie.
Yep, and I got a golf shirt.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Dan. John, you go to Virginia with the waste collection.
And this afternoon, just, you can wait till tomorrow.
Thank you, Dan.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes.
I have some information to report based on some questions that council asked me at the last meeting. Also, Mr. Blackledge is here. He has done his own independent research that I think you'll find it very interesting. So basically, at the last meeting, you asked me to check with Newark and find out if they had any policies regarding noise control and trash collection. And they do. Section 634 of the codified ordinances involves noise control, and there is a special section in there that relates to trash collection in addition to other items. And they have a noise ordinance that says basically between 9:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning, a generation of noise as a result of trash collection and other things is prohibited. So just to let you know that.
9:30 p.m. to 7 a.m.
9:30 p.m. to 7 a.m.
And that does that specify residential areas or the city as whole?
That's only for residential.
Residential, okay.
And they have only had one complaint on their record as a result of this, and it was handled by the prosecutor's office, who just called the trash company and they ceased and desisted. So,
You said 7 a.m.?
Yes, 9:30 p.m. through 7 a.m. There is no trash collection for residential areas only.
There is no trash collection, or they have an ordinance that there be no trash collection?
The ordinance says there is no trash collection between those hours in residential sections of the city.
Okay.
And what you're saying then is that the city of Newark is finding the trash collectors are complying with that?
Yes. And
To their knowledge?
To their knowledge, and if they're not, just the prosecutor's office just contacting them resolves the situation. Now, in addition to this issue, Mr. Blackledge approached me before the committee meeting today. He did some of his own extensive research on this, and if you'd just like to take a minute, present your information.
Sure. Well, I'm not here to take
money out of your pocket. I'm looking to put money in your pocket.
Thank you.
This is dealing with all your expenses that anybody can go and get from a trash company, and what you pay if you want to go through either or trash collection. Oh, I think I gave you two, sorry. Sure. If you look at any of those numbers, and you want to compare them to a single trash hauler in the city that would come in here, Granville's at $14.50. Doesn't come close. The cheapest one I found was in Zanesville for $9, just to take trash away. You have a single trash hauler, it's going to save your roads. Also,
Wait, let me back up just a second. Granville has a single trash hauler,
Yes.
correct? Does Zanesville then as well?
Yes.
Okay.
and one of the aspects is that we're too big of a city to do this. I found 215 other cities in the state of Ohio that does this. Here's a list of them. All single trash haulers. Westerville, New Albany.
So they either contract out or it is a city
They
service
either
provided
city service
by...
or contract out, yes.
Okay.
And in essence, it saves your roadways. It's gonna save you $20,000 and put back into your own budget and do whatever you want with it. There could be some doubles on there. I'm not a very good typer, but I try to do my best.
You typed all this out?
My wife and I did. I did the investigation, tried to do as much as I can, and she typed it off. She typed up the other stuff today. Well, I think I saw Asheville twice. I looked at it. I don't know if it's like the township and then the city. I saw that typo right off the bat. But my biggest concern is, number one, you're only going to have one trash hauler throughout the town for residential. I'm not talking about commercial. I'm only talking about residential. It's going to save your streets.
They do it. It's a city service in Lancaster. Yeah.
And you're going to put $20,000 more in your budget. You're going to get free trash for the city, your own municipalities. To me, it's a win-win.
I happened to, from last month's meeting, I was curious because I had remembered when I grew up in Lancaster that it was a city service, and I wasn't sure if it still was. And it still is, and by the looks of the website, they have the city broken up into different zones. So I don't know how many crews they have, but on one day, zone 1 is done on Monday, and zone 2 is done on Tuesday. They have it on the city's website. They have a map that shows you where the zones are and which day they would then come and pick up your trash.
Now, the rates that you have on here, the rates that you have on here are the individual rates. They're not the municipal rates.
Right.
These are just what they charge individuals in each of the communities. These are not the rates the community would pay. The individuals in the community would pay.
If I called today saying I live in where I live in Heath, and this is the numbers they gave me.
Okay.
In waste management, there is a setup fee too. If you don't recognize that, that even pushes it up even more. Even if you pay it for the whole year, like some people do, my proponent to that is, if we take care of this now, first of the year, go right into the next year, and you don't have to worry about, losing any money from that atmosphere that the people already paid for in ahead.
On the waste management, the two columns is the one for the people who pay by the year, the second,
It's,
the 1822.
That's what it means quarterly, annually.
yeah, it means quarterly and annually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's what that's for.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, how did you come about this list?
Internet,
Okay.
calling, mostly internet. I just start searching.
You got an hour or two involved in this, huh?
I got more than a lot than what you think. More money too. The first package
I
I
was
spent quite a
teasing.
bit of money.
A lot of time.
When I set my mind to something, I wanted to do it.
Well, it's interesting because, I think I told you last time you were here, I told you, waste management shows up at my house. They were showing up at my house about 4 to 5, 10 to 5 in the morning, which I'm up, so it wasn't bothering me, but they come right before 7 now. And I don't know if they
Mine changed too.
did it. I was like,
Back and forth change right now.
Probably the article.
Made a few calls. John?
Willow Ridge was at about 7 o'clock. Now it's more like 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Well, I think Kent, I was gonna tell
The
him, I think
article.
he helped us more too, you know, because he wrote down what
Yeah.
Keith had in there.
Have you noticed any change in your neighborhood? No?
I'll stay up, but yeah, I usually go to bed about that time.
Okay.
I'm a night person,
Okay.
and I'm in the basement.
So really what it comes down to is you have several options here. Number one is you can do nothing and just ignore it and go on status quo. You can look at just simply adjusting the time and see if you can enforce that. Or three, you can look at community-wide savings in addition to the money the city would save.
And I'm assuming if we went to the concept of a single hauler that we, bid out as a city, we could put into that agreement a stipulation that says you can't start picking up before a certain amount of time. Or
We
something
could.
like that.
You are correct,
We
it's in
can
the
put
contract.
anything we wanted to in that.
Okay.
So there's several options on the table that you can choose.
My thing is, I just don't want to see 5 trucks go down my street every week. To me, I think it's
Public hearing for
ludicrous.
this?
Yeah, what,
Are you recommending that, or seems appropriate?
probably what I would do is this is a critical issue because it affects the whole city. And I think it'd be worthy of a public hearing, just get input.
I too think it would be worthy to call the main players that do this.
Invite everyone.
Invite,
Yeah.
I think I'd maybe look at maybe 2 meetings. One with the haulers and one that would be a public hearing, which of course haulers could go to that as well. But, just as an editorial, if you would break the city up into small zones, you could basically maybe have a system where they could bid on a zone where you could keep some of these little guys, little operations still have the ability to compete. Maybe wouldn't bid on the whole city, but if they, could find the efficiency of having all the customers in one concise region, I'm sure that's one of the reasons why
They're able to give a lower price.
Yeah.
They're hitting more houses in a shorter distance.
they're getting them all.
Yeah.
You can buy ward or something like that. That'd be the way. Or maybe fine.
I saw something today too.
Yeah, because the population is equalized.
That's what kind of bothered me. It's coming down 30th Street and the trash haulers, they're parking in that center lane to collect garbage.
What?
Houses, to collect garbage on the houses along there.
On which street?
Yeah.
On 30th?
Yeah.
They probably do that so they don't stop traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more dangerous for the driver. But as a courtesy to traffic.
Then they were unloading cars right here, right in front of the municipality, right in that center lane today too.
Oh, where the car hauler came in.
I thought that's kind of dangerous because
What would you like to do?
I think we need to have public hearings, so, because I've had people call me, especially once on my street, they've been over here twice. I forget the lady's name, but
I think what you need to do is come up with a plan first with what you think you might want to do, and then decide, then have a public hearing.
If you want to even come up with a plan.
I think it's okay to still have an open mind and at least gather information. I mean, it's crazy just to slam the door on it. I mean, I'm the one who's definitely said I'm all for, I wasn't for going to one hauler because I like the idea of free enterprise and letting people do things, but at the same time, I think it would be, pretty negligent if we didn't at least have a public hearing and get some more information. Kind of keep an open mind, I guess.
I don't think we should try to
have an open
plan. I think we just have a public meeting and see what their
No,
input is.
Doug, I would disagree with you on that. And I think Keith is right in that if we're going to have a public meeting, you're asking for comment. Well, it's good to have at least an idea, at least a structure of what you're asking people to comment on. More than just the concept. You know what I mean?
Whatever.
And maybe within, John's committee, or, you know, however, you know, you guys can, you know, we can kick around ideas as to what that concept would be that we would want to, you know, like you said, if you were to break it up into the city up into 3 different sections, maybe you do it by ward. If you wanted to just do it as the city as a whole, if you, I think you want to put a little bit more meat on the bones for people to be able to comment on. What do you guys think?
You could have a public hearing and then come say, well, what are the details? We don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we have to act on any of it. It's just.
What you can do, you can
I'm here
prepare,
to gather information. That's
just
it.
prepare a brief outline on the subject, because that's all we have is brief information. And then open it up to opinion in regard to what's presented on the outline. And, you know, the outline wouldn't take long to prepare.
I think too,
Probably
when
10
we
minutes to present.
have these public hearings, if we have somebody there that's good at taking notes or recording or.
Well, we'd have Lynn, right? Lynn would be
Yeah.
there. She would have to, it'd be recorded.
Because, you know, since last month, I've been going around and looking at some things, and I talked to an individual about Licking View Drive. You know, that seems like that's breaking down quicker than any street in the city. And he said, did you ever see how many garbage trucks goes down here in a day's time? And every time you go down through there, you're always behind one.
Well, Licking View Drive in particular has a combination of factors
It's
that
not
are
only-
negatively impacted.
Not only.
Number
garbage,
one, it's on a riverbank, okay? The ground is spongier, okay? It's wet, right? And which side of it's breaking down worse? The side that's closest to the river, okay?
Shady side.
Number two, there's a lot of trees there, which cast shadows onto the street, which means that they don't dry as quickly, which means then that they're wet and it freezes again. Number three, for the entire east, all of the buses on the east side of town use Licking View Drive every school day to go to the middle school and to the high school. So every school day, it's seeing bus traffic, you know, coming and going. And four, it is, you know, I'm sure used by all the trash haulers in the area, because it's a easy way to get from one side to the other without having to deal with a bunch of traffic lights and stuff like that. So there's a whole lot of reasons why Licking View Drive has, you know.
There's also.
Well, John, I'll tell you what, I'll make myself available during the day, you know, sometime if you have a few hours or a few time.
Well, I have a suggestion. I think if we give a 10-minute presentation and outline what we're talking about, that what we're trying to do is get public opinion. Do you want this? Don't you want this? Or these are options we're looking at. Do you perceive one as being better than the other? I could prepare a 10-minute presentation. Then what we could do is at the next community development committee, instead of having an agenda, have a public hearing and have it at that meeting. And if I had to have stuff to get approved, I could always maybe go to the street committee meeting next week or something like that.
Do you think it'd be a good idea to have a meeting with those haulers first?
I would invite the haulers, to be honest with you, and have them all together in one room. And, you know, and try that, because they need to be together. One side has to listen to the other.
I'd like to know how many people in the city Heath wanted before I ever did anything. I think you just put a thing in the water bill saying, are you interested in, you know, one trash hauler for the whole city and pay a flat rate and everyone has to do the same hauler or not? Just a simple, or maybe a couple questions and get some feedback that way, because if you have a landslide of people want it, then you move on. But if you got a landslide that say, no way, I want to keep the guy I got, then why even bother about it?
All depends on how you ask the question.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, you know, I would do that first. It don't cost you anything, and that's the way to get. I mean, to me, that would be the
Well, how are you
easiest
going
way
to
to
get
get
the
some
input of the
feedback.
people?
Public hearing doesn't
Huh?
cost you anything.
How do you suggest getting the input of the people?
Like I said, if you send it to everyone that gets a water bill is pretty much probably a person that has trash.
Well, what are they supposed to do? They want to get the water bill. That's
I don't care. Call you.
No, you
Yes,
would
whatever,
ask,
go
you would
online
ask
and
them
do
to send
something
it
or
back
something.
in, which is similar to what we do with the police. What are they? Every other year,
survey,
doesn't yeah, they send out a survey.
I mean, you might get 2 back. You might get 20. You might get 200.
why don't we do this then? Why don't we put the information on the water bill and then on our website, put a questionnaire.
Yeah.
If you're interested, please fill out the questionnaire. Why don't we do that?
But if it's so vague though, they're not getting all the information, you're just giving a basic question, they're just not gonna look at it and fill out.
Well, the questions are gonna be very basic. Are you interested in revising the waste collection services?
That's all I want to know
Maybe
first.
have
Are
3 or
you,
4 questions
you know,
on it, and if there's enough positive, then you go ahead and you schedule a public hearing or whatever. Okay?
yeah.
And they need to understand that if
There's a
there
lot
was a
of-
single hauler, that would reduce their costs.
Right.
Their
Yeah, I
monthly
think
costs.
that would all have to be spelled out in the communication,
Right.
is that,
Yeah.
you know, the,
That would be on the website. That's what you would have on our
Maybe a quick
website.
couple paragraphs explaining, because you just asked that question.
I just wanted to ask,
Right.
we was talking about tax collection. How does this affect tax collection if you're only collecting taxes from one of these companies rather than all of them, right? I mean, the city's collecting
It
taxes.
shouldn't affect it at all, because
Shouldn't
if you
affect-
have 4 different haulers that have 4 different people, let's just say,
Yeah.
or 5, just for mathematics, you have 5 haulers that have 4 people each, then once a week, you've got 4 people working in the city. If you have 1 hauler, it probably would have fewer people, but I don't think, they would still have to work the same number of hours to cover the city as 5 different haulers, wouldn't they? Just
trash
mathematically
is what
speaking.
trash is. I understand your
Yeah,
logic.
I mean, if
Yeah.
it takes 100 hours for all the trash haulers to empty all the trash in the city of Heath today, it's still gonna take 100 hours if 1 trash hauler does it.
Should be a little less because you aren't going by the houses
Well,
that you're not picking up.
Simplifying
You
everything.
know, should be a
Simplifying
slightly less.
everything. but, you know.
Okay, then, how about like the taxes for the tags on the trucks? Don't we get part of that too? If you
Very
have
minimal.
less trucks?
No.
Very minimal.
Yeah, no, if
The
the
county
business
gets
was
that
in,
problem.
if the business was in Heath, or does a commercial tag, is that different than just a regular?
Well, we only get money for people within the city of Heath who live within Heath. You have to live within Heath to pay our license plate tax fees.
Okay.
So if the businesses
What if
are
a
not
business
Heath-
is in Heath? Do they have a license plate tax fee that we get a cut of? Or is
I
there
don't
a
know.
separate commercial license plate tax
I don't know.
that we don't get anything?
That I don't know.
I think it is very minimal,
Yeah.
even if it is at all, and it goes to the state. And you're gonna get very minuscule of that for your roads. You're getting more money based on your $20,000 that you're gonna get in free trash for your whole entire city buildings and saving on your roadways than anything else.
Also, you're saying that
You're getting free trash
what
here.
cities have done is in their agreements, they have negotiated that the trash hauler will not charge them
Correct.
for,
This building, the pool, safety parks, all those that is by the city of Heath.
you know, that there could be a potential issue with that. You guys may recall, it's probably been 3 years ago at least now. The city had entered into an agreement with I'm not gonna name them, a particular trash hauler to handle all of the city's facilities. John Geller ended up having major concerns because the type of truck that they were using was not watertight. And so if I know you all have seen how the wastewater plant operates, and you have seen the screen buildings, and that's the type of material that the trash hauler hauls away. John was having a hard time getting a consistency on when the trash hauler was there. Also, the type of truck that they had was not watertight, so there was the material that was being removed from the wastewater plant was then draining out onto the parking lot of the wastewater plant and then the street as it was going down the road. And so we actually took out the facilities from the agreement that we had with the one company and went with a different company as it related to those because they had vehicles and such that were watertight and could, and it would not leak that material.
I think that should be a separate thing over there because of the EPA requirements there.
Well, what we've got is we're looking primarily at residential. As a matter of fact, we're looking exclusively at residential with the, and commercial could go get their own anyone they want. That's the way Granville's got it set up now. The worst scenario is if you want to go with one hauler for residential purposes, then the residents of the city of Heath benefit tremendously from lower, and the city goes with somebody else and doesn't benefit. That's the worst possible case. Best possible case is the residences benefit, and we get a hauler that can handle all the city's requirements, so we both benefit. So the worst possible case is still a win-win for the citizens of the city. But in any case, would you like me to put together?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I just had something to add. A town I lived in Kentucky, Mount Sterling, they had one single hauler for the city, and what they ran into was traffic disruption because they tried using one man on a truck. Well, a driver and one man on a truck, and it was holding up traffic on our main street, something terrible. So if you do go with a single hauler, you need to think about what it would do to some of our streets. If he's picking up everything on that street as he goes down through there,
It'd be more time
you might
per
talk
street.
about manning.
So that's another point too. Would you like me to prepare a statement to put on the next water bill, inviting people to take a survey in regard to this subject on our website? And then what I'll do is I will put together some questions and then email them to everyone if you'd like to amend them or change them for the website.
If we use the website for the survey, how do we verify that we only get one feedback per person?
You really don't. The only way you're going to verify you get one feedback per person is to have a public hearing.
Or they live in Heath.
You don't even know if they live in Heath.
And the only reason for,
you're right.
but the reason for the survey is just to get interest, okay? It's not voting on anything. And so if someone isn't quite legitimate and they do it twice, or people from outside do it, again, you can't weed that out, but the only purpose of the survey is just to see if there's generally interest.
Yeah.
And we would have to just work on the assumption that 60% of the people responding are Heath residents or something like that. It's a risk you take by doing it that way, but there's not a big risk because you're not making a decision on that other than to have a public hearing.
We gotta wrap up here. We got a pretty sizable finance committee.
Then I'll just say one thing in regard to the last item. We should be getting plan reviews for the Port Authority Inference Drive reviewed and the results in the next couple of days. And I'll go over that with you the next meeting.
The one thing I wanted to bring up in the meeting tonight, about 100 yards straight this way, that river's constantly eating. In the last year, it's taking about 10 feet of the property. Next thing it's going to be on city property. People should go, we should look at that. It's a big problem.
Well, the funeral director, John Stickle, he's actually hired, Jack Stickle, I'm sorry, someone to fix the problem and decide the river to straighten it out a little.
You did take that call?
But this is,
You got that call from, because I transferred him to your
Yeah,
voicemail.
I got it.
this is right across from this property behind the funeral home. It's residential.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. He owns that.
He owns.
Right.
Yeah, it's really eating away quick.
Yeah, he is taking action. He's got 12 engineer approval. Thank you, folks.
That's it. Anybody got one question?
Appreciate your efforts putting that list together.
Yeah, we do appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, you done?
Cletus?
Cletus, you adjourn? Okay, finance, 7:10. Everybody got an agenda? First item, 51,000, equipment for the wastewater plant. This came out of service.
Yeah, that could be.
For a flight pump, new clarifier, gear reduction system, $31,000 for the reduction system, $20,000 for the new pump.
I think that's on the agenda.
That's number 15. John Geller, I spoke with him today. He asked that he would appreciate council's consideration to waive the second reading on that and would hopefully approve it tonight. We've got a lift station that has just one functional pump in it, and we don't want a situation where that pump would go bad before we're able to get at it and address it, so.
Any other comments? Second item, change the return check fee from $20 to $30. Keith, comments on that?
Just seems to be the routine.
How long's it been?
I think it was in 92, maybe. It's attached to it. Oh, 1992. It's been since 1992 that it's been $20. People tell me that you look around, it's $30, $35 a lot of these places.
This is coming in.
Change it.
Comments? Third item, appropriate transfer of $1,020 in a nickel from general fund to streets. Machinery, equipment, repairs, and maintenance to resolve a wrong payment made to a wrong vendor, which was returned in budget year 2013.
This is kind of complicated, but this fixes it. Becky paid TC, it should have been Tire Centers.
TCI should have been paid, and we paid TFC or something like that, or?
Anyway, so they had the money, and TCI kept sending invoices. She figured it out in 2014, so she paid using Bob's budget twice. And the other place we don't use much, so they're running a credit. Anyway, it's a mess. Just fix it.
Okay. Everybody have thumbs up on that?
Yeah. Puts the money back in Bob's budget, makes him happy.
You got that one.
Keep them on your best.
All right. Fourth item, seek bids for chemicals, streets, water, wastewater. Waive the second reading. Any details? It's just what came out of John's department, John's agenda.
Yeah.
And that's.
Questions,
We
concerns?
do this
That's
every
the
year.
waive the second, you said? That's on
Yeah, we
there.
gotta waive the second reading on that one too.
Okay.
Sam, you got that?
Yep.
Any other comments? Mark got that. Fifth item, authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with ODOT for bridge inspections. With ODOT saving $7,000 to $12,000 is what John indicated. Waive the second reading on that one as well. Got that, Tim?
Yep.
Everybody okay?
Hey,
That's not
John,
on tonight, so don't worry about it. It's not on tonight anyway. Things aren't on tonight.
the bridge contract thing,
Yes.
why do we need to wait a second on that?
We'll have
Because
it till 2
ODOT's
weeks.
trying to move on it quickly. No, that won't be coming up though till, the
Next-
next meeting.
Next
Right.
meeting.
The next meeting, it's not on tonight.
Okay. Appropriate $8,700 for media and landscaping, general fund transfer to the Parks Department. Cover the cost of 79, media maintenance 2014. Mayor to enter into an agreement with Showcase to provide those services. Was bid with 2 bids. Comments? Okay, other items.
Okay. We, just one day, I kind of asked Becky if she had, what was the status of that, note to pay the water tower off. I expected like a drum roll or yippies or anything. She just quietly did it. And, I just wanted to make note that the game plan that we established 4 years ago came to fruition, and she wrote that check, or actually transferred that money. On one other item, the only council member I had communication about this was Tim. It was in regards to a table I found on eBay, a conference table that's actually slightly longer than this and slightly narrower, that would have, you can be seated, like Jeff and I can't both slide in.
We're like hugging each other here.
Anyway, it was a solid wood top. I forget what kind of wood it was. Do you remember?
Cherry, wasn't it?
I think maybe
Yeah,
it was
I think maybe
cherry.
it was.
Anyway, it was a used table. It had great pictures. It was from up.
They want for
I wanted they had it listed for $2,700. I'm confident that would have been a $10,000 table, and it
was partitioned in such a way that made me think that these
That's what we
chairs
need.
would
any
better.
Yeah. Anyway,
The legs are a little more proportionate to trying to get these big
Yeah,
chairs
yeah.
in
you
there.
could get, I think, 5 on a side plus 1 on each end.
At least 4 on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 5.
Anyway, I've had the measurements. I think I gave the stuff to the mayor. You got it.
I'll check and see.
Bid on.
It was on Craig's.
Oh.
It was on Craig's. It was for sale. And I asked the guy, I said, would that be a delivered price? And he thought about it. He says, yeah. He says, you didn't beat me down on the price. It's a used table. It would, you know. And, huh? Well,
Need refinish?
no, it's
Yeah, it looks like
turnkey,
it's in good
ready.
shape, the
It's
pictures.
it's very nice.
Good when we sell it.
He'll deliver it and he'll set it up, or does it take?
I didn't negotiate setting it up, but it
So
would take,
you're bringing the screwdriver and socket set it.
anyway. Tim, I think, was a little cool, the idea.
I said no because I thought it was stupid to spend that much money when we were in contract negotiations with the people at the time. I just didn't seem right to spend $2,700 on a table when this table works fine for me. But that was my point of view at the time. So I told Keith I didn't think we had to go forward with it, but you guys can decide what you want to. But I'm happy.
We don't have any money in the council's budget, so you'd have to appropriate the money. And I don't even know if it's still available. You know, I had a couple conversations.
That's been a couple of weeks at least, right?
Yeah, just
How
before you.
much longer is it, Keith? 'Cause I
1
just-
feet. It's 2 feet in
2 feet
total.
longer.
Yeah, cause that's what I'm.
Is this 16 and the other one was 18?
Something like that. I think that's about what it was. We figured it was 2 feet longer. So
Uh-huh.
you know, if the mayor stayed where he was, you know, it'd be about here. You could still probably get around, or we could slide that way a little bit because you can still get around it. So you can still get around. And it was a little. It was a little. It was kind of. It was a little narrow here, and then went out wide, and then came back in.
From the ends, it
Yeah,
kind of
square.
you know.
Okay.
Anything. But
I think we ought to get it.
check it out, see if it's still there. I don't care. But I just.
We'd
It didn't
have
seem
to-
really good to me at the
Keith's
time.
right. I mean, we'd have to
Come in
appropriate the
section.
money.
Does it come in sections or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 sections.
2 pieces.
Or 2 pieces.
This is 2
Was
feet.
it 2 or 3?
I'd have to look.
I thought it was.
I thought it was 3 6-foot sections. Is what I thought.
You're
it was.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. It was.
And I wasn't sure exactly where the legs hit. You had the measurements
I
where the
got
legs hit
I
between
got the-
each one.
Yep, I got the
I
measurements.
figured each one would have to have 2 legs almost, or hooked together and then have a leg at that connection point.
Or if we've got to appropriate it.
Well, it's
It wasn't. It's
probably
not
not
worth
easy to
pursuing
solve.
if you guys aren't. You know, if you guys don't want it. That's why.
That's fine.
How
Yeah.
long's it been on the list?
Huh?
How long's it been for sale?
It had been for sale for some time.
But you're offering $2,000.
I don't know, I'm fine with this table, to be honest with you.
How far is it?
It
Northeastern
was
Ohio,
it was Cleveland area.
Can't get in, they can't get it. They're not wide enough to fit these chairs.
What do we think about it a little bit, and so we can go on and get I guess they gotta do caucus and stuff.
Maybe if you guys wanna talk amongst yourselves and give Keith some feedback prior to the next finance committee.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, Keith's right, this has been on for a while. If it's still on, who knows how much longer it will be on.
It was a furniture vendor that had it. So. Maybe I can get the particulars.
Check it out and just see if it's still available.
I'll get the particulars and scan it and email it to you.
I was gonna say, or can you run out of here after you're done with here? Run check on your computer.
I'll go
before
see
the
if
meeting
I'll go
starts,
see
it's
if
still
I've got the information.
I'm just saying to see if it's still.
I
on
know I
Craigslist.
looked at it.
Just pull it up. We gotta get. I mean, we
Anything
gotta
else,
finish
anything else for finance?
finance.
Okay, we're adjourned at 7:22.
All right. Under new vacation.
Is Morrow not here?
Mara's not here. I assume he's still on his trip.
I'll excuse him.
Okay. Improvement, installation, and special.
And I'll do the public service report.
Public services, you're gonna do it for you?
Yes, I chaired that committee.
Okay. Under introduction of ordinances, let's jump down here, ordinance 15. That one we need to be waived, and since he's not here, Jeff, you do that?
15?
Yeah. Then, 16, 17, and 18. Yeah, but do we need to waive them?
I don't think.
I don't
No,
think
I
there's
don't
any
see
reason to
anywhere
waive any of
else
them.
Second reading.
19 we don't need to waive, so go to 20, it needs to be waived, which is chemicals, so that's for wastewater, so I guess Jeff, that'd be you also.
What?
Number 20.
No, no,
Oh,
that's.
street department
Came out,
chemical.
it came out of Cletus's, Cletus wrote the legislation.
Oh, it just came out yours, didn't it? Yeah, Henry. Alright, Cletus, you do that. Then, flipping over to the back side. Beat the heat and the, both beat the heat. Ryan, you wanna do those? And then, resolution, mitigation plan. Did that come out of use, please? Okay. That brings us to everyone else. Mayor?
Yes.
We're only waiving 15 and 20. The others in between are gonna hold for a second reading. Is that what you are seeing, or? Did you?
That's what we'd like, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure none of the others, 16 through 19, needed to be.
Nope.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
You're going to do the last one?
Yeah.
Mess me up. All right. Got 5 minutes.
You guys have plenty to spare.
Yeah.
We've ran with 30 seconds left.
I kind of, I just do Blackwood. Alone, it's kind of a sure thing.
Doing all right? Look, I think at a minimum, we implement an ordinance.
I was in worship.
He just wanted decisions.
I know if a trash truck, and I don't have an infant, right, that would be woken up by a trash truck. Oh, I know if a trash truck came by my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and I got my windows open on a nice cool, I wouldn't like it.
Well, I was telling him,
Ordinance due or come
is
is
they
there,
just
let's
give
do
council
online.
time to act on it, and they will.
Wow, thanks for reminding me, I haven't done mine.
Decisions.
I'm not he just doesn't.
Septic report, is that
By the 15th April usually?
April 15th?
Is it usually the 15th, John?
Can't remember.
I forgot.